I wish it was Christmas today. I wish it was Christmas today.
Christmas every day. Christmas every day. Yeah. Merry Christmas, everybody, from Gallatin, Tennessee. Welcome to Christmas Every Day. This is the podcast that keeps the spirit of Christmas alive all year long. My name is Troy, and I'm your host. So if this is your first time checking out the show, thank you. Thank you so much. We really, really appreciate you checking it out. We want you to know we do this all year long. So we release a new episode almost every Friday. So Christmas never really has to end. And we have a bunch of episodes in our back catalog if you feel like stepping back into time, going back all the way to last July, I think. June? I don't know. I don't know anything. So look, today is Friday, August 21st. And we kind of turned a corner at the Christmas Everyday household this week. So my wife and I were out in the backyard on Monday, and we were watching the dogs, running around and playing and acting dumb the way that they do. And just out of nowhere, we're just watching the dogs, and my wife, I think, was standing behind me doing something else in the yard. And all of a sudden, just, from behind me, she says, it smells like fall. And I'm like, what? It was like 90 degrees outside. But then when I actually started paying attention, I realized that she was right. I mean, something in the air on Monday smelled like fall, and I didn't even realize it until she mentioned it because I wasn't looking for it. And I don't know if she was, but she certainly noticed it. But it wasn't something that I could really even pinpoint either. But I mean, it was hot as blazes, and it still felt like summertime out there. But man, it sure enough smelled like fall. So thank you, honey, for paying attention. Because much like most of the rest of the time that I'm awake every day, I was not paying attention. But that was nice. I mean, it was just a certain smell, and it really. It hit my wife, and then it hit me, and we were both pretty happy about that. All right, that's just a little, something there for you. Now, we have a listener email this week from David Ferguson. David's been a friend of the show for quite a long while, long-time listener. Thanks a ton, David. And he says, quote, speaking of Scrooge movies like we were talking about last week, quote, Albert Finney is my favorite Scrooge. It's a musical, and the part of him and Belle being in love goes on for too long. That's a funny critique, but a great movie. I grew up with the Muppets and want to like it, but just can't get into it. Michael Caine does a great job, though. I really like most versions of the movie, and I'm excited to see the Johnny Depp version, so I can see A Christmas Carol in the theater for the first time, end quote. David, thanks a ton for that email. I haven't yet seen the version with Albert Finney, and I never really had the desire to see it. It's really strange because, as much as I love the story, I should want to see that. It's my second favorite story of all time, but I just never have one. I've never cared to check out the Albert Finney version. But now that I've got the Muppet Christmas Carol under my belt, which I thoroughly enjoyed, I'll have to check out the Albert Finney. I think that was from 1970. I'll have to check out the Albert Finney version. I agree 100%. It's going to be super cool to see the Johnny Depp version in the theater. I'm a little bit more excited about it than I was. But I've also never seen A Christmas Carol in the theater either. I think it comes out on November 13th. So I'm definitely getting ready for that. That's going to be a busy weekend around the Christmas Everyday household because you've got the Johnny Depp movie coming out on November 13th. And then my wife and I purchased tickets to go to something called Christmas Village at the Nashville Fairgrounds on the 14th. So Friday is the 13th, the 14th is the Saturday, and we're going to go to the fairgrounds to the Christmas Village. And what it is it's like the fairgrounds in Nashville is where they have the flea market once every month. It's like once a month. And they always have all these vendors out there. Well, Christmas Village is like a Christmas version of the flea market where they've got all these different vendors, and all it is just Christmas vendors, people selling, shirts and wrapping paper and ornaments, but they only allow vendors to purchase a booth there. I know because I checked with them. I was like, hey, I've got a podcast. Can I, rent a booth? And I would love to, maybe live stream from there or do something cool. And they were like, no, just vendors. I was like, well, poo-poo, you poo-pooed my plan. But we're going to go do that. And so that's going to be a busy weekend when that comes out. I'm really looking forward to it, though. I don't know if we're going to go see. We may just make the 14th. We may just cram everything in on that day. You know what? I'm just talking out loud right now. Do you guys want to know what I saw about 2 miles from my job yesterday? I saw a freshly opened Spirit Halloween store. And I was like, okay, no, I was like offended. I was like, this is way too early for Spirit Halloween. And I really, I feel like it is. I understand, opening early, you try to make as much money as you can. I get it, open up, however long before Halloween. But when I saw Spirit Halloween open today, it reminded me of those tents that pop up and they start selling fireworks like 3 weeks before the 4th of July. And which is just utterly ridiculous because all it does is, make everybody's dogs, afraid for like 3 weeks before, they finally stop. But, it's just unnecessary, to have Spirit Halloween open this early. But I'll say this again. Christmas stuff on the shelves in Hobby Lobby in August is just fine with me. There is a very, very particular level of hypocrisy that I am 100% willing to live with. Okay, so you know what? I think we need to see where we are with the countdown because we've got something cool to get to.
Santa's coming to town!
Santa! Oh my God!
Santa here? I know him. I know him.
It is only 126 days until Christmas. Can you believe this? So, wait a minute. My palms just started sweating a little bit because I've just, I've done a little looking. I don't even know if I would say that I've done some shopping, but I've done some looking, but I haven't done any buying. And in 3.5 weeks, we're going to be under 100 days till Christmas. I'm getting nervous, y'all. I haven't even gone out and bought any gift cards. And it's my wife. My wife is going to be the one that's going to be hard to shop for because invariably between now and, Christmas Eve, more than likely, she's going to buy every single thing online that she wants. And then it's going to make my job that much tougher. But it's like I said, I'm getting nervous. We've only got 126 days until Christmas. So that means there's 125 shopping days. It's getting out of control, people. We're almost there. And so we've kind of got like 3 countdowns this week. It's only 11 days until September 1st. And I think, obviously the start of the Burr months, I think that that's when Spirit Halloween should really be open. Not with like 2 weeks left in August. Spirit Halloween opened up on September 1st. I'm making all kinds of sense here today. And one more, since my wife mentioned it smelling like fall outside on Monday, and it totally did. It is only 32 days until September 22nd, which is the first day of fall. And that's when it's official, September 22nd. I remember last year when I've never known when the first day of fall is. And then last year, because I was doing this podcast, I was like, I wonder when the first day of fall is. And I think I did a whole episode just based on that. Who knows? All right. So this week we have a story to tell. And I came across this tale this week, and I thought it was fitting given the conversation that my wife and I had. No, it isn't fall yet, but with the pumpkin spice on the shelves and with Spirit Halloween on the scene, maybe fall did show up a little bit early this year. And this tale is called The First Christmas Feeling. And while, it might not be entirely applicable today, we're feeling cozy. We've got a little hot chocolate going on here. Look, it might still be pretty warm outside, but we keep it nice and cool inside. And I think for this, we need to go over by the fire. The First Christmas Feeling. Clara loved Christmas. Not in the way some people say that they love Christmas because they enjoy exchanging presents or decorating the tree or watching the same 3 movies every December. Clara really loved Christmas. She loved the lights. She loved the music. She loved the smell of cinnamon and pine. She loved the first cold morning when you could see your breath in the air. She loved the anticipation most of all. That feeling that Christmas was coming. But there was one problem. Clara was impatient. Clara was very impatient. Pause. Okay, I can relate to Clara. I can. Let's do that in there. Resume. And every year, sometime around the middle of August, she would begin thinking about Christmas. She tried not to. She really did. She would tell herself, it's still summer. She would look outside at the green trees and the bright sunshine and remind herself that there was plenty of time. But then she'd walk into a store and see the first Christmas decorations tucked away on a shelf. And she'd smile, just a little. Then she'd see a box of Christmas cards, and she'd stop. Then she'd hear a Christmas song playing somewhere in the distance. And that was usually when she gave up pretending. Christmas was coming. It was still months away, but Clara could feel it. Now, one morning in early September, Clara woke up before sunrise. She opened the window beside her bed and immediately noticed something different. The air was cooler. Well, it wasn't cold. It wasn't even really chilly, but it was just different. There was a freshness to it that hadn't been there a few weeks before. Clara stood by the window for a moment, and then she smiled. Fall, she whispered. She loved fall, too. For Clara, fall had always been the season that stood between her and Christmas. The summer was easy. Summer was far away from Christmas. December was Christmas, but fall, well, fall felt like the waiting room. The long stretch of weeks between the end of summer and the moment when she could finally put a Christmas wreath on the front door without her neighbors wondering if she'd completely lost her mind. She closed the window and she went about her morning. Later that afternoon, Clara drove into town. The first thing she noticed was the color of the trees. Most of them were still green, but here and there, a few leaves had begun turning yellow. She passed a house with a pumpkin sitting on the front porch. And then another. And then a little stand selling apples appeared beside the road. Clara slowed down. She smiled. Maybe fall wasn't so bad. A few days later, the temperature dropped again. Clara went for a walk one evening wearing a light sweater for the first time that year. The sun was setting earlier. The air smelled faintly of wood smoke. Somewhere nearby, someone was baking something with cinnamon. Well, Clara stopped walking, and she closed her eyes, and for just a moment, she was 8 years old again. She was sitting beside a Christmas tree. She could smell cookies baking in the kitchen. She could hear music playing in the next room on the record player. She could feel the excitement of knowing that Christmas morning was just around the corner. Well, Clara opened her eyes, and the Christmas tree was nowhere to be seen, and there were no presents. There were no lights. There wasn't any snow. There was only a cool September evening. And yet somehow she had felt Christmas. That night, Clara began thinking about something she had never really considered before. Maybe Christmas didn't begin in December. Maybe it began much earlier. Maybe it began with the first cool evening. Maybe it began when the leaves started changing. Maybe it began when the days grew shorter and people started gathering together a little more often. The next morning, Clara went outside with her coffee. Well, a few leaves had fallen overnight, and she picked one up, and this time it was bright red. Well, she held it in her hand and she smiled. For years, she had thought of autumn as the season that came before Christmas. Well, now she wondered if she hadn't had it backwards. Autumn wasn't keeping Christmas away. Autumn was leading her toward it. The changing leaves, the cooler air, the earlier sunsets, the sweaters, the candles, the cinnamon, the first fires in the fireplace. All of it was part of the journey. Christmas didn't simply appear one morning in December. It had been quietly approaching for months, and maybe that was part of the magic. Christmas was anticipation, and it was looking forward to something. It's remembering. It was noticing the little things. And suddenly Clara realized that she didn't need to rush through fall to get to Christmas. She could enjoy every step along the way. So she began paying attention. She noticed the first morning when the air smelled like autumn. She noticed when the leaves changed from green to gold and red. She noticed when people started wearing jackets again. She noticed the first chilly evening when she wanted to sit under a blanket. And every time she noticed one of those things, she thought about Christmas. Not impatiently, not desperately, just happily, because she knew it was coming. One evening, Clara sat on her porch watching the sun disappear behind the trees. And the sky was turning orange and pink. Leaves drifted slowly across the yard. She pulled her sweater a little tighter around herself, and she smiled. Christmas was still a long way off. There would be weeks of autumn before the first snow. Well, there would be Halloween. There would be Thanksgiving. There would be countless ordinary days between now and Christmas morning. And Clara suddenly realized that she didn't want to skip any of them. She wanted to experience every one, because those days were part of Christmas too. They were the road that led there. Clara looked at the first star appearing in the evening sky. Then she said quietly to herself, "Fall isn't standing between me and Christmas." She smiled. Fall is taking me there. And for the first time in her life, Clara understood something wonderful. You don't have to wait until Christmas to feel Christmas. Sometimes it begins with a cool breeze in September. Sometimes it begins with the leaf falling off of a tree. Sometimes it begins with the smell of gingerbread in the kitchen or the sound of a fire crackling in the fireplace. Sometimes it begins when the days get shorter and the nights get longer. And sometimes it begins simply because you love Christmas enough to notice. So if you're listening to this in the early days of fall or the last days of summer, which we're doing, don't be too eager to rush ahead. Enjoy the leaves. Enjoy the cool mornings. Enjoy the sweaters and the pumpkins and the first fires of the season. Because Christmas is coming. Not all at once. Not yet, but it's coming slowly. And it's coming quietly, one beautiful autumn day at a time. That's what I'm talking about, folks. Bring on autumn. You know, the more I think about it, the more I should just embrace it. I mean, okay, not the pumpkin spice coffee creamer, but everything else about fall. You know, I should just embrace it. Why not? You know what? I'm grown. I'm a grown man, and I can do it if I want to. That's a nice little story. And I'm getting ready for fall. I really am. Fall. I love fall. I love Halloween. I could take Thanksgiving or leave it, but fall is definitely, it's my time. All right, well, let's wrap up this long old episode with the Carol of the Week. Now, you can check out the Christmas Everyday Christmas Carol of the Week Spotify playlist by checking out the link in the show notes. In the show notes. Where was I going with that? But this week's carol isn't on Spotify. This week's carol comes courtesy of Duncan Baird from across the pond in Birmingham, United Kingdom. Now, Duncan sent us an email last year, and he was letting us know about his music. And because I'm a terrible podcast host, I forgot about it over the course of the holiday season. In my defense, even though I'm a horrible podcast host, I've got a really bad memory also. Ask my wife. It's a horrible, horrible thing. It's a horrible thing to live with. So, Duncan, I'm terribly sorry about that, but I was going through a bunch of old emails last week, working on sort of another project, and I came across the one that Duncan had sent to me last year. And now we have an awesome Carol of the Week. I'm going to post a link to the album's page on Bandcamp. Now, the title of this song is very, very special to me. So let's check out Christmas Every Day from the album called Winterval by Duncan Baird.
December the 1st, hang up the lights. We won't be sleeping much tonight. We sit yourself down, turn out a festive frown around. Gotta look like we're having fun. So sleep away the months, the days, for now the year is gone. Na 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 na, it's Christmas every day. Na 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 na, it's Christmas every day. December the 12th, it's such a joy.
Well, I kind of messed that up a little bit. Okay, so Duncan Baird, the song is called Christmas Every Day. And the album is called Winterval. So you can find this on Bandcamp. He's on there. And I'm going to leave, like I said, I'm going to leave a link for the album on Bandcamp. So Duncan, thanks a ton for sending that in. I really, really, really like that song. And check out the rest of the album too, because it's really good. There's a couple of really cool songs on there. So I am very sure that that's going to wrap it up for this week. Thanks a ton for checking in with us today. We're going to have a new episode of Welcome to Pine Tree Valley coming out over the next couple of days. And make sure you're following or subscribed or whatever, so you'll be notified of the return of the Naughty List, which is going to be released on Tuesday, September 2nd. So thanks again, and from our house to yours, Merry Christmas.